Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we will talk about considerations for a successful Azure application security program, presented by Fortinet and Cybersecurity Insiders. I am Holger Schulze, the founder of Cybersecurity Insiders, a community that proudly serves over 600,000 cybersecurity professionals. And I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar is brought to you by Fortinet, the global cybersecurity leader driving the convergence of networking and security. Now, before we begin, let me share a few housekeeping items. First, if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions window in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll address your questions during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Additional materials are available for download in the handout section, including an e-guide on how to defend your web apps and APIs, as well as the FortiWeb Cloud WAF as a service for Azure. So make sure to go there and download those PDFs. Finally, this webinar is being recorded for your reference, and we will make the recording available shortly after the event. All right, let's get started as we dive into application security and how to deliver a successful Azure application security program. And with that said, now it is my pleasure to introduce today's expert presenter for this deep dive into application security. Please welcome Ben Zilberman, and Ben is Product Marketing Director for Application Security at Fortinet. Welcome, Ben. Thank you for presenting today.
Welcome, Holger. Thanks for hosting me here. Really excited.
Excellent. Yeah, it is an exciting topic, and let's dive right in. First, let's take a quick look at the challenges organizations face. And for that, I'd like to highlight a few key findings, right, revealed by the brand new 2024 Application Security Report based on a detailed survey of over 500 cybersecurity professionals that was produced by Fortinet in collaboration with Cybersecurity Insiders earlier this year. And the expansion, right, of application and API landscapes, well, it offers both opportunities and challenges for organizations. And while those advances, right, in application development and cloud apps, while they enable, if you will, unparalleled business agility and innovation, they also have a downside as they enlarge the attack surface, right, creating numerous vulnerabilities for threat actors to exploit. So this complexity presents a formidable challenge for IT security teams to maintain visibility, right, maintain control, and to protect against those increasingly sophisticated adversaries, right? But let's take a closer look at some of the specific findings from the survey. And let's start with the lack of application security expertise. Only 1 in 6 security professionals consider themselves expert. And having extensive experience and a profound knowledge of application security, including the leadership, right, or including leadership and security projects. Now, this group is absolutely essential for steering strategic, right, security initiatives and cultivating, if you will, a culture of security awareness in an organization. And on the flip side, this lack of security expertise means that most organizations, they lack deep expertise required to effectively protect applications, right? And that's a problem. Now, that problem is exacerbated as applications and APIs proliferate, right, and grow exponentially, causing organizations to lose visibility into their application and API footprint. And having this visibility and awareness is absolutely critical for mitigating security risks, right? Especially in the context of shadow IT, where unauthorized applications can introduce new vulnerabilities. And basically, it boils down to you simply cannot protect what you don't even know is there. Looking at the numbers, most alarming, 45%, almost half of respondents in our survey said they are not sure they know all applications in their organizations. Half of organizations have that lack of visibility into their apps. And this finding, it really, to me, it drives home the need for strong IT governance strategies, right? And technologies like application discovery tools to reveal those hidden applications. And so as a result of this increasing attack surface and increasingly or more sophisticated attacks on one side and the lack of security expertise and having the right tools to defend against them on the other side. As a result of this, we see a significant rise in successful attacks against applications. And our survey confirms this, right? With half of respondents reporting that their apps were compromised over the past 12 months. Now, contributing to this rise in successful attacks is a weakness that we see in many organizations, specifically a weakness in detecting and patching vulnerabilities in a timely manner, right? Our survey reveals that 40% of organizations admit they can't patch vulnerabilities fast enough, leaving their organizations exposed. So, Ben, these challenges clearly show that organizations still have a lot of work to do, right, to minimize, application-related risks and reduce the attack surface. Ben, can you tell us how Fortinet can help in addressing these challenges?
So thanks, Holger. Yes, I will be glad to tell everybody how Fortinet helps addressing these challenges. Maybe before we dive into Fortinet's perspective and solution, let's just do a quick recap of the picture that you just painted for us, or actually the industry painted for us when they answered the survey, right? They're telling us that organizations are telling us that they lack expertise, that they're not knowing how many APIs and applications they have. The bottom line is, despite all budgets and trainings, that 50% are compromised, right? And it takes them time to patch. So obviously, there are many technologies out there. There's a lot of knowledge out there, but the bottom line is that the threat actors still have many successes, and security systems fail. Why is that, and how can we overcome it? So at Fortinet, we are investing a lot. Most of our research and development investment actually is in machine learning and AI-based capabilities. We really believe that with AI, we are able to cover for some of the gaps that security teams have now in protecting applications, and at least bridge the gap of the skill shortage, as well as detection of new threats. So we develop our machine learning in these areas. One area is the threats, web protection, specifically detecting zero-day attacks, new attacks, or unknown attacks, sophisticated bot behaviors, discovering and protecting APIs. These are all on the security side. And then the other area is what we call threat analytics, is where we use machine learning in order to alleviate the workload of the cybersecurity teams by helping them getting a better understanding of threat campaigns that are currently being launched against their organization. So we will dive into each one of these in this quick overview of Fortinet Web Application Security Technology. Let's start with the very basic WAF job, which is protecting from the OWASP top 10 web application security risks. Many vendors, many solutions out there go about it by positive security or some sort of some form of anomaly detection. What does it mean? It means that we assume that we don't know all the threats, but we can learn the behavior of our legitimate users. Now, what is the problem? The problem with this approach is that if you block all the anomalies, then you're not only blocking threats, you're also blocking some of the real users, maybe new users coming from new machines or with new profiles, new accounts that are trying to access the applications. And then you have a high rate of false positives, and security teams just hate exception handling. And WAFs, they have this web application firewalls, they have this reputation of generating a lot of false positives. So the real need here is for a better detection rate, reducing the amount of false positives as well as false negatives that happen too, where threat actors make it through. And they need a better way of securing the user experience. So what we at Fortinet do with our machine learning is we apply two layers of machine learning. So one would be detecting the anomalies. So if you look here at the little legend on the left, there are the normal requests, the squares, the benign anomalies, and the threats, which are the triangles. And then whenever an application request or a request to the application is detected or flagged as an anomaly, we check that anomaly. We see, we use our FortiGuard Labs, which is the Fortinet's research arm, huge database of known threats, and we look for patterns of a malicious behavior. If we find that there is one, we will block the threat. But if we find that this is a benign anomaly, we will let that user through. And this is how we reduce friction. We minimize the rate of false positives, and we deliver maximum detection rate. Obviously, if you can translate it to reducing the amount of manual labor, reducing the frustration, and making the security team more productive. The next area where we apply the machine learning would be API. So in the survey, we've learned that 42% of the people are not confident that they know all of the APIs in their organization. Now, why does this happen? Is because APIs interconnect, or they are kind of the glue between different services, different technologies, different systems and applications that interoperate. And a lot of sensitive data is being transferred through these APIs. And there are a lot of integrations that are done by different teams in the company, and it's hard for the security teams to really keep track and supervise all of that. For example, there is a developer that wants to try a new tool, or there is a marketing team that wants to generate a campaign, and then they upload some user data to another service via APIs, and these APIs are compromised. So it's really hard for security teams to observe and supervise everything here. It creates more blind spots. And what we do at Fortinet is we help organizations with first discovering and creating a catalog of these APIs, so they have the full visibility, then validate and enforce API schemas, and manage access to the API endpoints, limit the HTTP methods, so folks will not be able to delete or change or extract any data that they're not supposed to, prevent data exposure and man-in-the-middle attacks. You mentioned that at the beginning, by securing the tokens and managing access to the different objects. And then there are the bot attacks that may target APIs, denial of service in the forms of XML bumps or JSON bumps that specifically target the APIs in order to bring the application to or to knock it down eventually. So this is as far as API security goes. We're moving on to bot attacks. So it's really important to remember that not all bots are bad. There are a lot of good bots that are accelerating our process. They automate a lot of tedious human tasks or repetitive tasks. Search engine crawlers are I think the most common or top of mind example of good bots that we want them to access the application. But then there are other bots. And here we see a similar number, about 45%. If you look at it, Holger, you see that I think in most questions we're getting to about half that are confident and half that are not. And I believe that those that are not, they have a good reason why they're not. And those that are confident, perhaps they don't know everything. So this is a real issue. It's a real issue for many organizations. We can elaborate on that even further. The challenge here is that there are a lot of more or emerging human-like bots and bots that behave like real users. So if you look at it, we started with simple bots, simple scripts. They were coming from the same IP and could have been easily blocked. Then the next generation was a little bit more sophisticated, with bots that rotate the IP address or rotate the device ID and you could block them by creating a fingerprint to the browser or to the device, set some thresholds and block them based on that. But now we see bots with more sophisticated behaviors. I'll give you a few examples to human-like behaviors. So for example, a bot that generates fictitious mouse movements or keystrokes or navigates through the application in a similar way to what a real user would navigate, invoking API calls in a manner that makes sense that it was a real user. So all this can be programmed into the bot in advance, and it's really hard for any security solution to identify that as a threat. Some bots can even bypass CAPTCHA today. So we need more sophisticated defenses in the form of behavioral analysis, biometric detection, and applying artificial intelligence to understand, to learn from all these patterns, all these anomalies. A continuous feedback loop is essential for such a solution to be effective over time. So at Fortinet, we have launched FortiGuard Advanced Bot Protection. This is our SaaS-based solution. It's not an appliance, it's not a VM, it's a service, a SaaS-based service that can be added onto our web application firewall platform. It incorporates behavioral analysis and deep learning to protect businesses from bot attacks that will lead to financial losses, reputational damage, regulatory penalties, and so on and so forth. The idea is to detect and mitigate those more sophisticated behaviors of bots. Then the next thing, the last area that I wanted to talk to you about today, everyone, is how do we help security teams to reduce the load of work that they have. As part of our investment in machine learning capabilities in our web application protection platform, we have created this tool that we call Threat Analytics. It's also an add-on subscription. The idea here is a twofold. So let's say that there is a misconfiguration that would generate a lot of events or a lot of alerts eventually. So instead of, we will flag it, so the security team will not have to go through all the logs and go after each and every, or respond to each and every alert, but rather know that there is this one thing that they need to correct or reconfigure, and by that substantially reduce the amount of noise. So this is one aspect of the threat analytics benefit. The other one is that, imagine, like we said, that the security teams are not confident. Some of them lack expertise. They not always know everything that's going on around them, not all the applications and APIs that they have. So I think it's plausible to say that they may not know of each and every incident or each and every attempt, right? Now, there are some things that are blocked by the security solutions or by the web application firewall. And once an alert is generated, then they see it, they know that it happened. But in many cases, in more sophisticated attack campaigns, there are different activities that may seem benign or may seem disconnected and independent of each other. But once we apply the machine learning engine here, we realize that there are few attack patterns, there are events that are interconnected, and by that, we are able to feed the security team with this information, and not only that, but also help them with suggestions how to harden security based on the findings. And obviously, this is applicable across all the entire hybrid cloud environments. So to kind of recap this very high-level overview of our technology, and I welcome everyone to ask questions or reach out later on and share your thoughts. We would love to go even deeper and explain more about our tech, but essentially for now, how do we deliver a solution that is also easy to operate, especially when we say that there are false positives, false negatives, the team is understaffed, and they're compromised eventually, and they need some help. So it's easy to deploy. There is a user-friendly interface with very granular reporting of security events, so they can drill down into the sources, analyze the destination, correlate between events. The solution is scalable. A lot of automation and integration possibilities are offered by Fortinet, even with additional solutions like the FortiGate, FortiSandbox, FortiDust, which is an application scanner or application scanning tool that we have, and other security solutions in our Fortinet Security Fabric. And then there are many training resources that are available once this is relevant and to whom this is relevant. So I would like to say a few words just on a very unique use case. I'm not sure that everybody knows that we also offer our solutions in the marketplaces, and let's look at Fortinet and Microsoft and how we work together to protect web applications and APIs. So our FortiWeb has a cloud version, a virtual machine, or a SaaS-based service that can be deployed in Azure in the following way. It's a fully featured WAF with all the goodies that I presented today that can protect web applications and APIs across the Azure and also multi-cloud environments. So the recommended architecture, as you see here, ensures robust security for workloads and applications across various Azure deployment scenarios, including, as mentioned, the virtual machines, even serverless applications or services, the Azure API management, APIM service, and Azure Kubernetes service, the AKS. We also have one of the FortiWeb form factors is an ingress controller for Kubernetes or containerized environments. So that is also an option. Leveraging FortiWeb Cloud provides a frontline defense against web-based threats. Eventually, it seamlessly integrates with the Azure front door, the CDN, for a combined CDN plus WAF service to eventually reduce the latency for application traffic. Again, this is very important for those that are concerned with latency and perhaps are in different geographical locations where this is more relevant. The Azure load balancers optimize performance and health checks while adding FortiGate VM instances that are deployed on Azure network. These virtual appliances serve as next generation firewalls to enforce security policies. Workloads in different virtual networks are strategically paired to dedicated security, such as the VNet, streamlining traffic through the next generation firewalls for comprehensive protection. So we combine here the network security and the application security. Basically, Holger, delivering on the promises you said at the beginning when you introduced Fortinet, combining networking and security. And this is exactly what we do here, also in the cloud space. So the bottom line is that this architecture offers a versatile and scalable security solution, ensuring the resilience of applications across diverse Azure deployment models. All the FortiWeb form factors, virtual machines, cloud, SaaS, are available on Azure Marketplace, and we offer a 14-day test drive trial.
That was excellent. Thank you for the deep dive into the Fortinet platform and its capabilities. And I see a few questions from the audience that are coming in asking about, the Fortinet solutions and how to learn more about it. Some of the questions we'll address in a minute, but I think the best way to get started is to visit fortinet.com, or you could scan the QR code shown on the screen. And Ben, I think you mentioned that you can also get a 14-day free trial of FortiWeb VM and FortiWeb Cloud WAF as a service.
Yes, that's right. If you scan the QR code, it will lead you directly to that page, and there it will prompt you to register for the 14-day trial.
Perfect. All right, let's tackle the audience questions that are coming in. And but before we dive into those questions, just a quick reminder to our audience, we would like to hear from you. So if you have any questions for Ben, please type them into the questions window on your GoToWebinar sidebar. this is a great opportunity to tap into the expertise we have here today. All right, let's take a look at the questions that are coming in. Ben, first question, AI and machine learning have become such buzzwords. How would you actually use machine learning to protect your app?
So this is a great question, and I believe that indeed there's a lot of overuse, I would say, of AI and machine learning. We can say that machine learning is one form of applying artificial intelligence. Then there is deep learning, which is kind of an extra level of machine learning. And I think, from my experience, the more vendors would talk about how great their machine learning is, they would, at least in many cases, confuse the customers. So my suggestion would be, if for those that are not really educated on machine learning and cannot really tackle and analyze or challenge the solution that is presented to them, my advice would be to keep it simple. How do you keep it simple? You just think of what are your pain points, and then you ask, how is the machine learning applied in the technology? If it's only for security detection, great, but it only solves one aspect of the problem, right? So it must deliver value on multiple levels, which eventually, I don't think anybody in our industry buys anything without testing it first, without a few-week evaluation period. So you can test the results. So one thing is just make sure that the machine learning that is being pitched to you addresses your pains, and then just go and test it and make a comparison and take a decision.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. That's great advice. That leads us to the next question. Do you offer any support or tools that can help when I'm not sure how to size the Fortinet solution and answer questions?
Yes, so especially in the public cloud space, we see that it's sometimes hard for organizations at all levels to predict the spend, to predict the workload and the consumption that they would be using. There are some times with peaks, and sometimes that the overall traffic is more balanced, and this is pretty hard for them. So we at Fortinet, we have introduced a program which we call FortiFlex. Think of it like a prepaid phone, where you know how much you pay in advance, right? You only pay it once, all right? In our world, meaning you only go to procurement once, you get the budget, and then you decide how much you want to spend and what you want to spend on, right? So if it's a prepaid phone, you can send an SMS or regular text, right? You can send a text with a video, right? You can make a call, you can use cellular data, you can use roaming if you go overseas. So at the end of the day, you have decided on how much you want to spend, and then you choose in which ways you're going to spend it. So it's very similar to with Fortinet FortiFlex. So you buy according to what you predicted or what makes sense to your organization, and then you choose which Fortinet products you want to consume based on this subscription. So it can be FortiWeb that we discussed here, it can be FortiGate VM that we mentioned on Azure, it can be FortiADC, it can be many other Fortinet solutions.
Thank you, Ben. Now, we talked about bots earlier. The question is, why do you need dedicated bot management technology?
So the reason is that we have, I think we talked about it a little bit in the presentation, but I will elaborate now. So the conventional security solutions were based on some heuristics, were based on some assumptions. A few years ago, the bot management category has emerged in the market, has become a great category. There were a few acquisitions in the space. The reason that it has emerged is the proliferation of the more sophisticated bots that easily bypassed firewalls, bypassed web application firewalls, and created a lot of havoc. I'm sure that many of us have heard about credential stuffing or credential dumping attacks. We see many examples in the news of data leakage that is based on such attacks, where attackers or threat actors take advantage of some leaked database of user credentials, usernames, and passwords, and they just run a bot that will use all these credentials against any website, right? We've seen these bots making a lot of financial damage to hotels, airlines, entertainment, anybody that sells a lot of that makes a lot of revenue online. So just imagine that there is an airplane where 30% of the tickets are held by bots, right? So all these attacks bypassed security solutions and made it to the press, causing this reputational damage and financial losses. We needed a more sophisticated protection, because some of these sophisticated bots behave like real users. It really required to up the game, apply machine learning, deep learning that will flag any suspicious transaction with the app and see if it matches any pattern of an attack. We'll look at multiple form factors. You could not run it with this huge data lake that it is that the solution leverages for the decision making. You cannot run it in a box in the data center, right? In a firewall or in a web application firewall. This is why this is SaaS based, and the whole idea is to analyze the intent of whoever is trying to access the application and make a clear distinction between good bots, right? We mentioned the search engine crawlers, chat bots, right? There are some legitimate bots, the bad ones, and real users. The level of sophistication has led to the emergence of these new solutions, and this is why we're seeing many organizations today adopting this technology in addition to their web application firewalls.
Excellent. Thank you, Ben. That was a perfect closing statement. And thank you again for sharing your insights on how to protect applications, right, with FortiWeb. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Holger, and thank you everyone for listening. Thanks for having me. It was a big pleasure to be with you today.
Same here. And with that, we have reached the finish line of today's session. If we couldn't get to all of your questions today, don't worry. We'll be following up with you to answer all questions over the next few days. Also, please keep an eye out for a follow-up email that'll include a link to the webinar recording, as well as the 2024 Application Security Report that we reviewed earlier today. Well, thank you again for joining us today. It's been a pleasure hosting this conversation, and I sincerely hope you found this webinar as informative as I did. My name is Holger Scholze, and you've been listening to a Cybersecurity Insiders webinar. And I look forward to seeing you again at one of our future webinars. Until then, take care and have a great day.